Here's a clue to what today's podcast is all about. My morning walk basically consists of me yawning because I am knackered. Yep, today we are talking about sleep. All things sleep related to the children, and we'll even talk a little bit about us and how much we sleep.
Today, Carl and Martin are talking about sleep. The sleep, or lack thereof, in their children and also in themselves. Sleep is fundamental to human survival and well-being. It's as essential as food, water and air. The scientific community continues to debate all of the functions of sleep, but the evidence is overwhelming. It's critical for body and mind.
How was your sleep last night?
Oh, I had a lie-in last night, Mart. I actually managed to sleep in to 4:45. I mean, I know that's a hell of a lot better than you normally do, but I get up and go to the toilet.
My watch tells me last night that I had 6 hours and 5 minutes. Now that is probably quite accurate for last night, because I did go to bed dead early, and I find that the earlier I go to bed, it doesn't matter so much how many times I wake up, because I can just think, I wake up and go, shit, it's 11:30. I've still got all that time. So that was quite long.
This is Adopters Anonymous. Anything you say here is in the strictest confidence.
Who are these people?
Man, these people are heroes.
These wonderful folk, Carl and Martin, they truly are great people. They deal with crazy stuff every day, every single day.
Lack of sleep can have a devastating effect on children, but also bear in mind the impact it can have on someone who's expected or needs to be there, ready to ensure the children are looked after, kept safe and secure.
We've tried everything. I mean, he was foster placement at first, so he came as a 4-day-old baby, so he was in a cot in our room, but he was withdrawing from drugs and alcohol, so that didn't help to start off with.
What does that look like when he's doing that? I mean, you knew what was going on, but what is it? How does that manifest itself?
They have this the cry that they have is horrendous, and he looked like a grumpy old man. 4 months, and you know he was resuscitated at birth because the birth was that chaotic. So it was the cry at night time, the grumpy old man look on his face, and just it was. If he slept, it was for a little tiny bit, and then he'd wake up, and then he had to have a medication at 6 o'clock in the evening and 6 o'clock in the morning for the first 6 months of his life.
That was withdrawal?
No, that was something else. Yeah. So,
what was he withdrawing from? What was she using? Do you know?
Oh, anything she could get her hands on, I think. And then he seemed to get over that eventually, and then it was like he'd have 10 minutes sleep and that'll do me, kind of thing. And you could see the impact of a lack of sleep with him in the daytime, because once he could like sit up and start doing things, his concentration span was like a butterfly. He'd do something, and then 2 seconds later he couldn't concentrate on one thing for too long. And I think, I can't remember how old he was when he first went to nursery, but one of the social workers we were still foster carers. One of the social workers said to my wife, I'm going to recommend that he goes to a nursery so you can kind of recharge your batteries through the day. I was working full time, but I could survive on very little sleep by then anyway. He was 18 months old and he was then put on melatonin, which worked for a little bit, and he did have a little bit longer. Still not a full night's sleep, but it was a little bit longer. And then a little bit after that stopped working, so he then started on alamemazine with melatonin, and then he was on that for quite a while, and it was just a case of increasing the dose as he grew or put weight on.
So I've not heard of that. Is that a heavy duty kind of sleeping aid?
I'm not totally sure. You probably find that it was an old medicine for something else, but they'd found out that it works for sleep with autistic ADHD, fetal alcohol syndrome kids. But it got to a stage where once it had been increased to a certain stage, his behaviour then in the morning was horrendous. It was like you'd have 2 good nights sleep, and then you'd have 3 horrendous nights, and then 2 good nights and 3 horrendous nights, but the behaviour in the morning was horrendous. And when he pulled an all-nighter, it ranged from me taking him downstairs and watching some TV all night. So that was Bing, Peppa Pig, Paddington, Peter Rabbit, and normally the same episode of them for all night.
Why were you making him watch those programs?
Oh wow.
They were your favourites.
They were definitely my favourites. Or it was me driving him around the city.
And what age was he at this stage? Because you kind of think that children of that age would, at some point.
Yeah, so I would say from about 2 years old, I think, started driving him around the city. Up until, I'm not sure how old he was when I finished, but it would be like the television won't be working, he'd be bouncing, he'd be wanting, sing songs, because he's mad into music, and it's like, I need to take you out, and no, you get him in the car, and the motion of the car would make him fall asleep. But I'd drive round for 2-3 hours, pull back on the drive, turn the engine off, and he'd wake up. And it was like, for God's sake. And then as he got older, we tried different medications, and I think risperidone was another one, and that was horrendous. And it was like you'd be lying in bed and he'd be doing somersaults in between my wife and myself. And so you then start thinking, okay, can we change the house around a little bit so it's a little bit easier? So we had the garage converted, massive bedroom. He went in there was a trundle under his bed, so we could sleep on the trundle and he'd be in bed. That didn't work, so we had another swap round. He went in the box room, same with the trundle, television, all the lights, white noise in the background, music playing, a mobile thing that used to shine the night sky on the ceiling, trickling water in the background. You lying next to him in his bed, and then once he'd gone to sleep, try and roll off onto the trundle. Go through the stages of escaping, and it's like you roll, it's like, where are you going?
Uncanny, this, yeah.
Yeah, and then we swapped again. I Eldest daughter's moved out, got her own house with her partner. We've moved our youngest daughter into the big bedroom downstairs. She absolutely loves that. And my son, I've given him a Fortnite themed bedroom, built him a bed out of IKEA, cabinets. It's high, it's got a den underneath it. And when did I do that last Christmas? I can probably count. I probably have to take one shoe off and one sock, and with both hands and the shoe and sock off, I could count how many times he slept in there.
A 2017 study of children adopted from care found 50 to 60% of adopted parents reported sleep problems, compared to about 20 to 25% in the general population.
Does he give you any explanation or reason for why, or what do you think is causing it?
I think it's anxiety. It's that little pickled onion, that many layers of trauma and anxiety and separation anxiety. He needs to be. It's weird because he will fall asleep on the sofa, which is my bed normally. We've got a nice big comfy corner sofa, and I sleep on one bit and he prefers the other bit. He will fall asleep on the sofa. Normally when he's had his meds and he's had a bath. But I can guarantee I hear him at 3 o'clock come walking upstairs, and he'll tap me on the shoulder. I'm already awake by then because I've heard him moving, and you kind of tune into him. And he'll tap me on the shoulder and say, "Can I get in bed now?" He will very occasionally take himself to bed, but it's in our bed. Or I will be upstairs watching in mine and my wife's bed, watching something on television, and he'll come and get in bed. But he doesn't lie. When he gets in, he'll lie nice and straight. And then I can gather from the chuckle that you know exactly what's coming. And then eventually he turns into a starfish, or his arm will be over you. And then the one that, oh my God, it's so frustrating. He'll put his feet underneath your leg and will curl his toes. And he'll do it alternate foot and just curl his toes. And it's like, for God's sake. And when he's in that kind of fidgety mood, which is the majority of the time, you can't sleep.
Sleep problems are more common among adopted children than among children raised in their birth families, though the severity varies depending on the child's early experiences. A review in the Journal of Clinical Child Psychology in 2012 noted adopted children were about twice as likely to have persistent sleep problems as non-adopted children.
When he gets into bed with you and your wife, or you or your wife, if there's just one of you in there, does he sleep?
Majority of the time, yes. But then there is that occasion where he's had something on his mind. He's got woken up in the night and got up and gone in his bedroom and watched something on the telly. He's seen something on the telly, and that doesn't happen too often. The meds he's on at the minute are working pretty well, but like I say, there is still the odd time where it's either very late when he goes to sleep, or it's very early when he wakes up. And then there is that odd time where he'll have an hour, and that'll do for him.
The Minnesota International Adoption Project found around 40% of internationally adopted children had parent-reported sleep disturbances in the first years after adoption.
When he's in your bed and he's asleep, does he still wake up early?
It depends, Mart, whether it's school or half term or the 6-week holiday.
Yes.
I'll let you guess
Yeah.
what he does when he's at school.
No need to guess. He'll stay in bed as long as he possibly can, and if he's not got to go anywhere, he's up and bouncing and ready to go.
How did you know?
Yeah. Well, so have you noticed any improvement with age or not yet?
Is it age or is it meds? There's the odd night where he actually will sleep through without his meds. But that is very, very rare. And it's normally when he's either not had any sleep the night before or he's done an activity.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a hell of a lot better than when he was like 18 months to, when he first came to us to when he's like, I don't know, 4, 5, 6. It's a hell of a lot better.
Research on post-institutionalised children in 2005 showed they had significantly more night waking and difficulty settling than non-adopted children.
I'm now going to give you some comedy
Okay.
of my own experiences. Obviously, the whole experience of adopting before you adopt is extremely exciting. You can't wait and you love it, and it's like, this is going to be brilliant. And so we thought, oh yeah, we'll get a room ready for them. Me and my wife put together bunk beds. Oh, they'll have to stay in the same bedroom, won't they? Because, they're brothers in there and some strange environment. So yeah, got it all ready. And yay, they're here. Woo, look at your room, yay. And I don't know how many days it lasted. But it didn't last long. They were in the same room together. So we took the bunk beds down. I think we tried single beds in the same room. Brothers of a certain age don't really get on like that.
No.
So then we moved one of the beds into a spare room we had and tried that. The first couple of weeks, I think people talk about this quite a lot, a sort of honeymoon period where the kids are great. They're on their best behaviour. It started off pretty well. We thought, oh yeah, this is easy, this. No problem at all. And then the cracks began to show, and it wasn't so much with our eldest, although he was pretty hard work with this. But the little one, we would do everything. Read the stories, settle him down, get him all nice and cosy and calm and everything like that. Read a story, have a process. I mean, this is the thing. At the end of every story time, it'll be, you have to do the same things like snuffle his ear like a dog, certain number of kisses, say all these various different things, and then, okay, that's it, time for bed. Naively, you'd leave the room. 5 minutes later, Dad or Mum. And so we got into a situation where we realised that we'd have to stay there a bit longer. We'd sit on the edge of the bed, and I think after about 2 hours, he might have gone to sleep. And would gradually slip out the door, and again, where are you going? So, then we tried to reason with him, and then we'd do things like sit at the top of the stairs all night, pretty much, just so he didn't think he was alone. But again, that wasn't working. He'd just want to get into bed with us, and then we moved his bed. We had a very big bedroom at this stage. Moved his bed into our bedroom, thinking that would be great.
Yeah.
Nope. Moved his bed closer to our bed, thinking that'll do it. Nope. No matter what we did, he would end up wanting to get into bed with us.
Yeah.
Our oldest, not so much, but we were tag teaming, so we'd take it in turns to do one night, the other night. and it would be a case we'd equally be up pretty late, just waiting for them to sleep. Then when we moved house, this carried on when we moved house, so we weren't getting much sleep anyway. And so we thought, okay, every single night we're getting disturbed, our sleep's disturbed, so what do? We tried all the different setups in this house as well. They'd had a room here together for a bit, and it took us a while till we got to the current setup we've got now. But we went out and bought, the money to burn. Went out and bought double beds for every child, for every bed in the house, so that if one of them calls out, we can go to them and just go to sleep there. And where are we now? So 7 years on. Our oldest is fine. Yep. He goes to bed fine now. Yeah, he likes one of us to be there. And, only recently has it, I can be with him 10 minutes and he's fine.
Yeah.
Before that, it would be like half an hour to an hour, just because, you get into a habit of reading anyway. You've got to read to the kids. It's always good. And then me and the oldest we'd watch some comedy together. So, I got him into some comedy that I like and he thought was funny as well. So we'd, do stuff together. And then that was fine. The youngest, as I said, 7 years. I think you can count on two hands the number of times he's not come into our room, or he's slept on his own. So it's exhausting.
So what causes this disruption? Well, it pretty much all comes down to feelings of safety and security, or in adopted children, the lack of it. In their early years, children may have experienced neglect, abuse, multiple carers and placements, trauma and disruption before being adopted. These experiences can leave the child in a state of heightened alertness or hyperarousal, which makes it harder to settle for sleep. Moving to a new family, forming new attachments, and the fear of loss and separation can all play out at night. Bedtime is a time of separation from carers, and this can trigger anxiety. Some children may have difficulties processing sensory data such as light, sound and touch, or regulating their emotional or physiological state, which can make the transition to sleep harder. The sleep environment or bedtime routines the child had previously may have been unstable or inconsistent. When they join a new family, replicating or adjusting that can be challenging. After adoption, children may experience a period of rapid change, forming new relationships, learning and catching up, which can mean their days are full and their bodies are less ready for calm or sleep. And if the children are awake, then generally so are we.
I think it's one of them things where I messaged you about it because, there's a Facebook page where we're on, and there's loads of people who are saying that they've got sleep issues with their kids. Yeah. And I think you put something on about supporting them, and I agree with that. They need that assurance and that closeness to us, and I think you've just got to put up with not a lot of room or not a lot of cover, and an octopus lying next to you.
It took us a long time for us to be able to get any kind of medication. Okay, it was another CAMS stroke paediatrician stroke whatever hoop jumping exercise, when clearly it was like, okay, look, this is the situation, we know what happens, we know how to sort it out, at least in the short term. Can we have some medication? Before that, I was buying it from America. Okay, so for anybody who has children out there who won't sleep, get onto Amazon America, or any other med site in Europe, buy melatonin gummies. Okay, they're not expensive, but they work, and they're not addictive, they're not dangerous. You can take them yourself, and they're bloody brilliant. And I tell you what, they work to treat, and we realised this is fantastic. Finally, we got the medication sorted out, and it does what it needs to do. It doesn't last because obviously you have to have breaks in giving it to them. Otherwise, it just stops working, and you know, sometimes it doesn't really work anyway. But a lot of the time, it does send them off to sleep. Now, they won't necessarily stay asleep, but I think what you were saying there, and what we were alluding to, is that, for God's sake, we're adopters, and part of that is putting up with some of this crap. And before my children were adopted, they were unsafe in their house. They didn't know what was happening in their house, and so nighttime was always a bad time. If my kids want to get into my bed, I don't care now. I've made peace with it a bit. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. If you're new to adopting and you just think, Jesus Christ, I'm tired, I can't be having this. But do you know what? Whose needs are more important, yours or theirs?
The child's.
They're small children. They can't express exactly how they're feeling.
No.
What can you do? You can be there to support them. Now, you know as well as I do, Carl, that it's a pain in the flipping arse, because obviously I wake up in the same sort of situation, crick's neck, bruised on your back. My wife's the same. She's all over the shop. If she wakes up and my youngest isn't sort of sprawled on top of her in some way, it's a miracle. And you know, you kind of wake up and you go, flipping heck, I feel like I've done 10 rounds of Tyson or something like that. But as I said, suck it up. Now, that's not to say you can't moan about it. That's what we're here for. That's what we do. Moan and moan and moan. And it will get better, because when they're 18, they're not going to be sleeping in your bed on top of your wife. And if they are, there's a policeman for that. But it's that situation, isn't it? I just, you know, it makes them feel safe. And if they sleep, that to me is a win. And I know there'll be people that disagree with me, and I'm sure. And that, you know, if you compare stories like ours with a regular biodynamic, regular stereotypical neurological wonder child, you'll find out that we are doing it all wrong, and you have to be cruel and make them stay in their beds and cry. That's all very well, but they have not lived in a house where there's been domestic abuse, potentially sexual abuse, drugs, alcohol, violence. The mere fact they're adopted is trauma in itself. So yes, we might be doing the good thing in the long term to remove them from a difficult situation, but the short term, they're thinking, geez, where the hell am I now? And I always think that when our kids came to live with us, I guess it's different having a child from birth, but when they've come, as ours did, from a completely different setup, from a foster family at the ages of, 3 and 6, they're aware of what's going on. And as much as you can kind of build up this kind of relationship of who you are to them and how you're going to be the new forever family, they don't know you from Adam, and it must be petrifying.
Yeah.
It's scary enough for us thinking, oh my God, how do we keep these children alive? They don't know that we're thinking that. God. Yeah, but equally, it's like they must be petrified, I'm sure.
It's like, I can't remember which episode you mentioned it, but that lady who was in the Sarah Nash book, who said I didn't, I was 22 before I realised I was not moving on. So our son came to us at 4 days old as a foster placement, but there's still that layer of trauma from the separation of mum, because he's been used to everything what's been going through mum's body, whereas your two boys have been separated from parents, gone to foster carers, and then separated from foster carers. So that's another layer. And so if it means that we've got enough challenges anyway. One of the banes of my life, I mentioned it before, is putting his socks on. And then there's the food challenge, and then there's just
layer upon layer upon layer upon layer.
So if it means that we don't get that 8 hours sleep that we used to get many, many years ago, to support our children, to make sure they get some sleep. Because the difference between my son when he didn't get any sleep and he couldn't concentrate on a thing, to now he sleeps all right, touch wood, and he can spend 2 hours making a landfill in our bathroom. You know, if you compare the two, he'd have gone in there, created holy hell within 2 minutes and then walked away, but at least he can concentrate on an activity for 2 hours. But a lot of that, okay, there's his meds, there's the support we've got in place, there's the school he's in, but he's getting, you know, a pretty good night's sleep on a pretty regular basis. So if that means that we don't have a decent night's sleep for a bit, so be it. You know, you look at the progress he's made through his life. He's no longer in nappies, can feed himself. You know, when he really wants to, he can get himself dressed. When he doesn't want to, we have to get him dressed, which is normally most mornings when we're getting him ready for school. So there's a natural progression, and hopefully there will be a natural progression with his sleep where eventually he might start sleeping in his own bed. And then eventually he might start going, I'm ready for bed, I'm going to bed, and takes himself off to bed and sleeps through the night. But like I say, you know, that's something that we're hoping is like all the other things he's progressed so well in his life, that we will get there at some point.
Issues frequently experienced by adopters when putting their children to bed include resistance to going to bed, with children needing repeated assurance or becoming anxious when separated from a parent, waking multiple times during the night, sometimes calling out for parents or getting out of bed. Some children insist on sleeping in the same room or bed as caregivers because of fear of abandonment or safety concerns. Disturbing dreams or screaming episodes linked to trauma or anxiety. Tossing, turning or moving a lot during the night, sometimes linked to hyperarousal from early neglect or trauma. Waking very early in the morning and struggling to go back to sleep. Fear of the dark or being alone is common in children with a history of inconsistent care or unsafe nighttime environments. Stress-related bedwetting is more prevalent in children who've experienced disruption or trauma.
Which brings us on to how we sleep. This is my favourite subject, and I'm such a bore about this.
I sleep fantastically, Mart.
Yeah, but for how long?
Oh, not very long. I think my sleep pattern changed with our first child.
Right.
And then I started working nights, and that then proper buggered up my sleep pattern. Our youngest daughter, she didn't sleep great. Took a while to get off, and you'd have to lie with her, read stories to her. And then our first foster placement, she was withdrawing from drugs, so she didn't sleep great when she first came to us. And then obviously our son rocked up and
put his feet under the table. I'm here.
At that point, most mornings I'd be in work at 6.
Yeah.
And most mornings I've been driving around the city for quite a few hours. When I do the afternoon school run, I could literally fall asleep then. I'm absolutely knackered. And then I get over that, and then about 8 o'clock, 8:30, I could do exactly the same again. I could go sleep. But then it comes to like 10 o'clock when I'm thinking I need to go to bed, and I'm wide awake. And it's like, for God's sake, you know, I try to put something on the TV that's not stimulating, or put some music on my phone and put my earphones in. and it's just like I've got water dripping on my head kind of thing, keeping me awake, and it's like, say, 11 o'clock comes round, 12 o'clock comes round, 1 o'clock comes round, 2. Sometimes I see 2 o'clock, sometimes I see 3 o'clock, but then it can switch. Occasionally I can, 10 o'clock I can fall asleep, but then I'm up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's never really a good night's sleep. A lot of fidgeting, and I don't know whether you get it, but I get that bit where a limb all if I hold it still, it starts hurting, and it's like, I have to keep moving it, and it's like, oh, you get up and you're walking out of the house going, oh.
That's an age thing.
Is it?
I think so.
Brilliant.
I was looking at this actually. I try and find a little bit of research I found about this. Women get between 7 and 9 hours of sleep a night. Okay. Teenagers 8 to 10, children 9 to 12, babies, toddlers 12 to 16, dogs 20. I've been quite concerned about this quite a lot because I've never slept well ever in my entire life, really. I always used to struggle going to sleep. I was always up at stupid o'clock when I was a kid. No matter what day of the week it was, I'd have a paper. I'd have probably the longest paper round in the village because I would be up first thing, and I'd be and it kind of stuck. And I in the past I've worked shifts for a newspaper, and I was working at up at 5 in the morning to do a shift, and also I suffer from sleep apnea, which is a lovely thing to have. So there was a time still do, to be honest, wake up grumpy, groggy, angry, headaches every single day, and it was all to do with sleep apnea because your body's trying to kill you, basically, and your body's trying to keep you alive. Anyway, so I'm being treated for that, but I still don't sleep very well. And so if I look at like the stats that my smartwatch and my phone give me, I think my average for last year was 5 hours, so not too bad, but it varies. Like, so if I look at last week, I think it averages out about 4 hours and 6 minutes. Now I kind of have this thing where I get really worried, and I'm looking at this research I've been doing that says several days with short amounts of sleep can cause hallucinations, paranoia, severe cognitive decline, and eventually organ failure, followed by the record for intentional sleep deprivation is 11 days. He survived, but suffered serious short-term effects. That was Randy Gardner in 1964. What a twat. And fatal familial insomnia is a rare genetic disease, and that shows that when humans literally cannot sleep, they end up with progressive cognitive decline and eventually death. The problem is, I'm not thinking that I'm going to die from not sleeping. I don't think that. But there are risks, like it's telling me here, that cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, dementia, shorter lifespan overall, if you get less than 6 hours a night, most nights. I can fall asleep. I'm well known for falling asleep in any position, situation, location, you name it. But it doesn't last long. And then I wake up, and if I go to sleep again, I'll wake up again. I wake up, and so I keep going through this cycle. Well, that's what happens. So my sleep is pretty bad. But I do worry about it. But I think there'll be a time when things get better. But there was a real marked change in my sleep probably about 2 or 3 years ago, when I suddenly was so tired that I used to run all the time, and I couldn't exercise or run anymore, and I'm exhausted. So I'm hoping to somehow break that habit and get back into sleep. But there are lots of challenges to overcome before that's going to happen, I think. But I think the problem is that with the lack of sleep that I have, I'm not prepared. I'm not refreshed to deal with the challenges that I have to deal with.
It has a knock-on effect.
It does, and I hate to say that because I'm not doing it out of choice.
No,
I want to sleep.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So in the last episode we were talking about, you know, I was having a bit of a struggle, and again, you know, sleep could be linked to that. You know, still not feeling great. I always seem to have a bit of a dip after the 6-week holiday because I wasn't walking on eggshells, but you're kind of prepared for something to kick off, and then back in school that feeling's gone. As you said, there's a seasonal change.
Yeah, definitely.
But then I think it's a little bit of a vicious circle that you're exhausted, but you've got the mental health, but then the mental health doesn't help you with sleep because you're overthinking things. And I've said it for a long time, sleep's overrated.
It's not, though.
It's not, no. And my eldest daughter has said to me recently that, you know, you need to sort something out. You need to start trying to get more sleep because it isn't good for your health not sleeping.
Could you go away, I don't know, once a month or once a week just to sleep?
So we were offered that not so long ago. I'm pretty sure it was my brother and sister-in-law said, Luke, one of you come to our house and just one of you have a decent night's sleep. But we didn't because you then worried that one of us isn't at home. Is that going to make him even worse?
But also you can't guarantee you're going to sleep.
No, because you're then away.
Yeah.
And you're then thinking, God, what's it like back at home, kind of thing. And your anxiety then kicks in of like, what's it like? What have I left behind? And then your mind's racing and then you don't sleep yourself. My son had sleep apnea.
Yeah.
And we recorded him while he was asleep, and I can't remember who we showed it to, and they said, right, he needs to come into hospital to have all the monitors on. It needs to stay on overnight. It's like, yeah, okay. I'm pretty sure I pulled the short straw for that one, and we went in, give him his meds. He fell asleep. They put all the sensors on. After about, I think it was about 2 hours, he woke up and he went, what are all these?
I'm not having this.
I'm not having this. Ripped them all off, and it was like, he wants to go home. So we then had the monitors and everything at home. We managed to get enough hours. My wife sat on the sofa next to him, didn't have a wink of sleep all night to make sure he didn't take them off, and they got enough from that to say, yeah, he's got sleep apnea and tonsils and adenoids out. That helped. And he occasionally snores, but his breathing at night time is 100% better since he had his tonsils and adenoids out.
So what do you think you will do to improve your sleep?
My sleep? Oh, jeepers. I need to get back in the gym.
Do you ever do anything like listen to hypnosis? That's good. Meditation? Have you ever tried meditation?
No, never tried that either. I've tried lavender on the pillow because we tried that with our son. Yeah. I've had, because it works on him, Our Planet On with David Attenborough and Barack Obama. I've actually put that on while I've tried Get Off, and it doesn't work on me as well as it works on him. If I go to the gym, that'll help my mental health, which then could have a knock-on effect. I'm also like burning a bit of energy while I'm in the gym. Calms, I've been told they're quite good. I used to have Nitol when I worked nights, and it did work. I just used to wake up with a banging headache. So meditation, and you've tried them?
The problem I have is that I am so tired all the time. The minute I put a meditation or a hypnosis tape on, I'm gone. But it's not the getting to sleep at certain times that's the problem. It's the waking up and then staying asleep. It's like, and then if I wake up in the middle of the night, I just end up just mithering over stuff.
Yeah.
And not even anything that's keeping me, that's worrying me. Just stuff. You're just like, oh God, why am I thinking about who played so-and-so in Metal Mickey in 1982. You know, it's like stuff like that. You stupid man.
Yeah.
What is wrong with what? Yeah. How many number ones did Culture Club have? And that sort of thing. Like, you idiot. So I don't know. I mean, I haven't got a solution to my sleeping. I've got millions of suggestions from doctors which don't work. So I just, crack on. I've said it before, though. I do live on painkillers because my sleep apnea, even though it's being treated to an extent, and there are times when it does seem to work. A lot of the time, I wake up with a banging headache and I can get rid of it, but it's just, another layer of like, oh God, really? Not again. But we're still going, and just, chuck into the mix some of the fun stuff. Like, so my children have never, ever, ever, I think once in 7 years, fallen asleep in the car. Massive long journeys, wired.
Kidding.
No, never ever. We think, they'll sleep in the car.
Yeah.
No chance.
On the very odd occasion that my son does go in his bed, it's quite high up, and so all I have to do is spin through 90 and just drop my feet.
Yeah.
And then I slide out and stood up, and he can be snoring. Well, he doesn't snore like I've just said, but he can be flat out, totally fast asleep. I know he's dead to the world, and I'll just spin to get ready to drop out, and he'll go, "Where are you going?" And I'm like, the house could have fallen down around you, and you want to open up. But I've moved.
You've winked.
Yeah.
One of your eyelids has twitched.
Yeah. And it's like where you get in, it's like, I'm just going to the toilet. Or I'm just going to make myself a drink. I'll be back in a minute. And it's just that hope that they do fall asleep while you're pretending to go to the toilet or make.
But if you don't come back, oh my God, you're in trouble.
Yes. If they don't fall asleep and they are still awake and you're still not back when they think you should. Dad!
Where have you been? You lied to me. You said you were going to you haven't been. So...
Yeah, and then I've had it when I've got in bed with him either the next night or a few nights later, and he's turned to me and said, "Now you're going to stay in my bed all night, aren't you?" You're not getting sneak off like you did the other
funny
night.
Business.
Yeah.
I think the message though is, I'm afraid,
short-term pain.
Yeah.
For long-term gain.
Remember why you're doing it.
Yeah. You've just got to be there for them and support them through this time, and hopefully they will progress like my son has with the rest of the other things, the other milestones that they are supposed to meet and he's met. Hopefully he will one day take himself to bed. And it is his own bed.
Just wait till he's left home and you get a phone call at about 9:30. "Dad, I'm ready for bed, come on." "Where are you?"
Or I'm fast asleep at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he'll come, opens the door, comes in, taps you on the shoulder and said, "Go on the sofa, Dad."
You said you were going to the toilet 6 years ago. Probably on my deathbed when I'm about to die, my little one will say, "Where do you think you're going?"
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Adopters Anonymous. Follow us on Facebook. Just search up Adopters Anonymous. Or if you think Mark Zuckerberg and his tech bros are responsible for most of the evils in the world, email us at the address adopters.anonymous@gmail.com.